try to join as much as possible, not always very successful. So I will start by giving a introduction to Black Mirror, and I think most of you know what it is. It has become very popular. Well, it started in 2011, and it was created by Charlie Brooker. I don't know if you have heard his name before, but he's the creator and the producer and also the writer of most of the episodes of Black Mirror. And he's a British citizen. He was born in 1971 in Reading, in the UK. And before his career with, let's say, career with Black Mirror, he worked as a journalist for many newspapers, including The Guardian. He's widely known to be a left-wing intellectual. He has left-wing political opinions, and he's also quite satirical of the system. He's a person that is quite, critical and satirical of basically everything. And Charlie Brooker is very important when talking about Black Mirror. I think we have to mention his name because he's the person behind Black Mirror. He's the one who made Black Mirror actually, and he's a very creative and let's say unique individual who produces lots of unprecedented episodes. And he's the one who owes all the credit. So all credit to Black Mirror, actually, most of the credit, let's say, goes to Charlie Brooker. Okay, Black Mirror started in 2011. It has a total of 33 episodes across 7 seasons. And the last season was released last year, around this time in April. So it started in 2011, and it's still going on. Most possibly we will have a next season at the end of maybe this year or early 2027. We are expecting season 8. So it's mostly referred to an anthology series, and all the episodes in it are standalone episodes, which means that they are not connected to one another. So it means that when watching the episodes, we can watch them. We don't have to watch them in the order as they are standalone and they are not connected to one another, except 2 episodes which have a sequel. And I will also mention that specific episode. So what is interesting about Black Mirror is that it started in 2011 and it was acquired by Netflix in 2015. So from season 1 to season 3, it was broadcasted, it was aired on Channel 4, was a local British network, a local TV channel. And after, including the special episode called White Christmas, after these episodes, starting from season 3 up until today, Netflix acquired the anthology series, which meant a huge change in its production. Because until season 3, Black Mirror was just a local TV show, British TV show that were mostly low budget productions, I would say, and they had actors playing in it that were mostly not very famous. Mostly they were not Hollywood stars or relatively unknown actors playing in it. So this acquisition by Netflix proved and brought about serious change in the course of Black Mirror. So in this poster, we have a timeline of all the seasons. The poster on the left is starting from season 1 until season 7 in 2025. And we can see that there are many episodes, but all the episodes are distributed unevenly. One season has 5 episodes, the other one has 3, and there are seasons with 6 episodes as well. So they are not distributed evenly, but of course there is the acquisition of Netflix starting from the 3rd episode brought about a huge change, which I will mention later on. So the first episode, season 1, episode 1, was called the National Anthem. So this was released on December 4 in 2011 on Channel 4, the British TV channel. And it was received with a mix of shock, controversy, and strong critical praise. This was the episode that set the tone of Black Mirror for the upcoming seasons. So it was set in England, in Britain, and it was mentioning British politics and the role of social media in the course of British politics. And of course, I will give spoilers throughout this talk. I'm very sorry, but I can't do this without giving spoilers. So the Prime Minister of England, the British Prime Minister here, is blackmailed because some criminals have kidnapped a member of the royal family. So after this, they send a letter and they send messages to the Prime Minister telling him that they will release the royal member of the royal family on one condition, and that condition is that if the Prime Minister has a sexual relationship with a pig on national TV. So this is their condition. And of course, the Prime Minister says, "No way, I'm not doing this. There's no way I'm doing it. Out of question," etc., etc. But of course, at the end, he's left with no choice but to do it. And this was the first episode, as I said, that set the tone of the Black Mirror tone of bleak, shocking dystopia, with unexpected plot twists, etc., and lots of controversy. And it drew lots of attention from the public with this very first episode. And I have an argument here. I argue that Black Mirror has become a defining form of 21st century science fiction. Now, what does that mean? Well, I argue here that when talking about science fiction in the 21st century, I'm not talking about the 20th century, but in the 21st century, when talking about science fiction, Black Mirror has obtained a very significant place within the 21st century. It has set the tone. It has its own distinctive style in the 21st century, and it has reached a certain. It has gone beyond boundaries and has become a cultural phenomenon now. So, when we are talking about 21st century science fiction, of course, on television, I think it would be unjust not to mention Black Mirror. So, therefore, it has become a defining form. And why Black Mirror? What distinct qualities? What other distinct qualities does it have? Well, it revived the Hauntology format for the streaming age. I think it was one of the first TV shows to do it. It predicted real technology with accuracy. When we talk about Black Mirror, it's always about technology. The technology is negative side. This is what they say, but it's sometimes also positive. It's not always negative. It's not always dystopian. There are also positive connotations. It shaped the cultural vocabulary around technology. Its reach is genuinely global. It has had a genuinely global impact. Everybody knows Black Mirror by now. It's been 15 years. It's already studied as literature. Yes, it has commonly been studied. And in my opinion, if you would ask me, why is Black Mirror such a noteworthy show? I would say, firstly, it's very creative. It has a strong sense of creativity. Which is, of course, owing to mostly Charlie Brooker. It's controversial. It's always very controversial. And this is one of the basic aspects of science fiction. It always leaves us with a question mark. We cannot draw clear conclusions, whether it is this or that, but it's always a question mark at the end. It's always about complex situations that we talk about, that they mention, and mostly shocking. And of course, unpredictable endings and unpredictability is also another basic characteristic of Black Mirror, which I think is very valuable, because when I watch something, I would like it to be unpredictable. And lots of scholarly books have been published on Black Mirror, which actually proves my argument that it has become a defining form of science fiction in the 21st century. And these books are all mostly edited volumes published by scholars throughout the world. And Well, I have counted 9 to 10 books, but on the internet it says that there are around a dozen books published, academic books published on Black Mirror. We have on the left Black Mirror and Critical Media Theory. There's Black Mirror and Philosophy, Dark Reflection, which is a very good one. The third one is Through the Black Mirror, Deconstructing the Side Effects of the Digital Age, edited by Terence McSween. This is also a very good one. And then Reading Black Mirror, Philosophical Reflections on Black Mirror, followed by The Philosophy of Black Mirror, Theology and Black Mirror, very interesting one. The Moral Uncanny in Black Mirror. And on the left side, the first one here, Black Mirror, Allegories for the Atomized by Greg Cenk, published by Routledge. And this one is a very recent one, on the left one, the first cover. This was published, I think, 2025, last year, and it's mostly about, it explores Black Mirror and isolation themes, the theme of isolation in Black Mirror. So these books actually prove that my argument that it has become a very defining form, and it has very good quality and lots of depth that allows scholars to do research on it and to publish scholarly books on Black. Otherwise, why would anyone bother, or why would anyone, spend their time doing research and reading on lots of reading on a TV series? So my second argument is that I argue that there are actually two Black Mirrors, a British one and an American. What does that mean? Well, very simple. First of all, I have no intention of polarizing this as a British and American, etc. But I have no such intention. But this is a reality, that there are actually two Black Mirrors. So the acquisition by Netflix came in 2015. So the first 2 seasons were very much British. Okay. And after that, after the 3rd season, the show was acquired by Netflix. The budgets, increased tremendously, and we saw a difference in style, difference in color, and there are significant differences in those 2 shows. When we look at the pictures, of course, the Netflix acquisition did not bring an end to the British shows, as once in a while Charlie Brooker still prefers to shoot an episode in England or in Scotland, but once in a while. But mostly, I can say that the episodes now have been Americanized, let's say, or they have been Hollywoodized. So what are those differences? When you take a look at the pictures here, the picture on the left is from season, I think it should be season 5, but it is an episode it's called Smithereens. It's set in England, and when you take a look at the picture, you see that it's very bleak. It's mostly dark. Sky is gray. We have a typical English British setting, not so colorful, lots of dialogues, not much action going on, and of course, very strong British accent to it. And of course, the first 2 seasons were mostly like this, because they were mostly produced in Britain. And the one on the right side, we have here a picture of Nosedive. This is one of the most famous episodes of Black Mirror, an episode that was providing social critique on social media, actually. And it was starring a Hollywood actress, Bryce Dallas Howard. I think she gained lots of weight for this role. You can see the colors. It's much more colorful. It's much more lively. It looks much more Hollywood style, a lot more action also to it. And of course, the accent is different. But there are notable differences between the 2 styles. But I can tell you this, what Charlie Brooker managed, his actual success is, I think, that he produced very high quality science fiction content without having, very famous actors, or without having a high budget in the first 2 seasons. And that's a huge success, I mean. And this is how he got Netflix to acquire it. Of course, with a high budget, you can easily have famous Hollywood actors or actresses playing in the episodes. So we have more examples here, and I remember a couple of, in the earlier talks, Cem Hoca said something very noteworthy. He had a very noteworthy statement where he said that science fiction is a very Anglo-American genre, he said. And I completely agree with that. It's a fact, actually. And this is one of the proof here, very obvious proof that science fiction, especially in the 21st century, is very much Anglo-American. So the first picture on the left, we have from season 2. It's called the Waldo Moment, a very interesting episode set in England. You can see the architecture where they have they create a fictional character, cartoon character called Waldo, and they make him run for office. So, and he gets lots of votes. He gets even almost elected. He gets so popular, and he's a very satirical character who always swears, etc. So it's very much very, very British episode. The picture beneath that, you see a woman running. This is also a very, very high quality episode called White Bear. This is set in England again, and we have a convicted criminal, a woman criminal, and who's set in some kind of a facility, some kind of a prison facility, where he seems to be running around like a mouse, and everybody's, while everybody's enjoying, she seems to be running for her life. This is one of the best episodes that explores crime and punishment and the technology's role within crime and punishment and ethics, of course, to go along with it. I would strongly recommend you to watch this episode if you haven't done so far. And on the upper right side, we see San Junipero. This is one of the most cinematic episodes that's set in a virtual sphere, and it tells the story of two terminally ill people who are about to die, and whose digital consciousness are transferred into the clouds. So in real life, they're about to die, and they have no way of recovery, but they have a new kind of technology allows them to live on in the digital sphere, in the clouds. So there's a virtual town called San Junipero where they live. This is a very, very cinematic episode, and one of the best, one of the most noteworthy episodes. Beneath that episode, we see a space crew of a spaceship. This is called USS Callister, and this is the episode where Charlie Brooker and Black Mirror deals with space opera, actually, and where it explores lots of themes, but there's a virtual reality game where people can go on in ship, and they can ride the spaceship, and it's a space opera. But there are two game developers, and the show actually explores the difference between the real life and the gaming life. So on one hand, we have the game, inside the game we have the space opera with all its tropes. So Brooker here actually shows us all the tropes that are present within space opera, with all the captains, with the spaceship, the technology, the alien lives, etc. All the present, the tropes that we have in space opera are incorporated in this episode. And they don't mock space opera, but they choose to deconstruct it. So the genre of space opera is deconstructed. But on the other hand, in real life, these people, mostly called gamers or players of video games, they lead lots of antisocial lives. So their social alienation or social isolation is presented here and mirrored along with their life within the game. So there's a tremendous contrast between those two lives. And Black Mirror has received lots of awards. There are 29 wins out of 99 nominations. It has received 3 Emmy wins, and these are the poster of the episodes which have received Emmy awards. First one is San Junipero, and I've talked about this. where the terminally ill transfer their consciousness into the digital cloud and they end up living there. But there's a twist to it. Life is good there, of course, but normally in real life they are either about to die or they are already dead. But in the cloud, they live in a coastal town and life is good. But after a while, they start to think that they are stuck there because they are already digital clones, and there's no way of there's no way out of this digital sphere. So the second poster here is USS Callister. I mentioned that as well. This was a very, very successful episode in season 4, and its quality is that it's the only episode with a sequel. In season 7, it has received a sequel, so therefore it has a very unique place in Black Mirror, and it's also very American because you can see lots of American Hollywood stars playing in it. Jesse Plemons is starring, and Kristen Milioti is starring as well. A very, very talented actress. You should check out her performance in The Penguin, where she played together with Colin Farrell. And the third episode that received an Emmy is the Bandersnatch. This is a very interesting episode. This is Black Mirror's one and only interactive episode where users or viewers can decide the course of the story. Now, these are some of my personal favorites. Men Against Fire explores technology and how evil technology can be used within a military context. Soldiers receive an implant that allows them to see some people as roaches, as enemies. So this explores this. I think this episode will appeal to former soldiers or veterans, a lot. It's a very, very critical episode and a very authentic one. Black Museum is one of the also very, very phenomenal episodes. It has 3 episodes in itself. So I won't mention all 3 of them, but in one of them, it's very interesting. It's starring a doctor, a medical doctor, and a new technology is being tested where the doctor can, feel the patient's pain directly, so that he can, or he or she can diagnose the illness. So when putting this on this technology, the doctor can easily feel the pain and they can diagnose the illness in a matter of minutes or seconds, maybe. So, but this turns out to be very, dystopian in the end because the doctor starts becoming addicted to pain. He becomes, getting pain so much that he starts, to damage his own body in the end, and he ends up basically killing himself. And White Christmas also is another episode that's about digital consciousness and transferring digital clones to the virtual sphere and its possible consequences. Now, in season 6, something interesting happened with Black Mirror, and this was Brooker's idea. What did Brooker want to do here? In season 6, he released 5 episodes, and 2 of them he called Red Mirror. And this is something that he specifically coined. Brooker coined it as Red Mirror. And these episodes had nothing to do with science fiction. They were mostly tend to align with horror fiction or fantasy, let's say. Demon 79 was an episode about demonic possession. And Maisie Day, it was an episode where, people transformed into werewolves. So these 2 episodes were part of the experimentation, or I think he tried to do something new. He basically wanted to bring some innovation into Black Mirror, and that's why he called it Red Mirror. But it was received not well. It was, criticized a lot, and lots of people said that Black Mirror is gone, etc. It's not good anymore. It has lost its own style. This is not Black Mirror. We don't want to watch it, etc., etc. And it has received serious criticism for this reason. But there were also 2 episodes, and which were quite of good quality in this season. Now, coming back to season 7, we have This was released last year around this time in April, and Brooker has released 6 episodes again. And because of these 6 episodes, I will mainly analyze 3 of them. So I will leave 3 of them out: Common People, Bête Noire, Hotel Reverie, Plaything, Eulogy, and USS Callister into Infinity. So I will analyze from these 6 episodes. I will analyze Common People, Eulogy, and USS Callister into Infinity. Well, before the release of this season, we knew, Black Mirror fans actually knew very well that this season was going to be a good season. Why? Well, because of season 6, because of all the criticism that it has received and all the Red Mirror experimentation. Everyone knew that this was going to be a blast, and it was the case. This was the case. It turned out to be a very, very good season. So I will analyze these 3 episodes: Common People, Eulogy, and USS Callister into Infinity. First of all, Common People. The title said it was about common people, and we have Rashida Jones, American actress, and Chris O'Dowd is an Irish actor, a very talented Irish actor, playing in this episode. I think this was one of the best episodes, probably the best episode of season 7, and according to many people, one of the best episodes of all times in Black Mirror. So here my argument is that Common People portrays a techno-feudal order in which unaccountable digital platforms commodify human health in inhumane ways, reducing individuals to dependent subjects who must pay continuous fees simply to sustain their social, economic, and existential presence. So what is techno-feudalism? It was coined by a Greek intellectual who was also served during a government as the Minister of Finance, I think, during the Syriza government in Greece. Yanis Varoufakis posits that the passage from capitalism to techno-feudalism is a result of the domination of platform capitalists. He argues that they do not even rely on the historical models of wage labor exploitation, but rather on the prevalence of digital infrastructures and data for rent extraction. This has ushered in an era which digital overlords can transcend algorithms in the exercise of their feudal rights over both workers and consumers. Techno-feudalism denotes an integrated system in which digital platforms behave as incomplete feudal territories, subjecting workers, consumers, or producers to exploitative relations similar to feudal hierarchies. It functions by extracting surplus in the form of data and algorithmic governance, while classical capitalism depended primarily on labor exploitation for surplus value. In techno-feudalism, economic rents come out of data flows and the attention economy, various forms of digital enclosures. So platform capitalism has emerged where most economic activities are mediated through platforms for the purpose of extracting value by surveilling and monetizing user interactions. While traditional feudalism was characterized by a rigid hierarchy enforced through land ownership and military coercion, contemporary techno-feudalism achieves similar outcomes through algorithmic governance, AI-driven surveillance, and the systematic exploitation of informational asymmetries. As a result, individuals are disenfranchised in economic, political terms, as they lack the ability to negotiate the terms of their digital experience. Now, what happens here? We have a couple here, very simple couple, Mike and Amanda. And Mike is a construction worker. Amanda is a school teacher. And one day, have a normal life. They have been married for 3 years. And one day, Amanda passes out while she was working at school. She faints, and then they go to the hospital, and she has been diagnosed with a tumor in her brain. So they go to a specific company, a new company that has groundbreaking technology, and the company is called Rivermind Technology. So the company officials say, okay, very nice, we can operate you, and we will take out the tumor, but we will have to implant a tissue, an artificial tissue instead of a tumor, which connects to our servers. Okay. Well, the good news, what's the good news? The good news is that the surgery is free. Okay, everyone's very happy. but you have to pay a subscription, monthly subscription of $300. So this is a working class family who struggles to get by already, struggling to get by, and they say, okay, we can do $300, but $300 is for the common tier, for the starting tier. Okay, now what does the company do? They increase the tier, very, very gradually, and this is very brutal, I think. Bit by bit, they start in the common tier, and then they say, okay, you have to upgrade to the plus tier, and you have to pay $500 extra. And what happens then? Before they upgrade, Amanda's working at the school. They are running ads through her brain. Okay, this is very creative and very brutal idea. So while she's teaching, unconsciously she starts, reciting ads to students. This is very, very brutal, and she has no control over this, and she has no idea that she's doing it, but the firm is doing it. And when they go to the firm, they say, okay, you have to upgrade. Okay, plus, Rivermind Plus. And then, of course, the man starts working more and more in order to get by and to afford this subscription. And then they say, okay, Plus is now common, so you have to upgrade to Rivermind Lux, which is, the highest tier, and you have to pay $1,000 extra for this. And of course, before that happens, Amanda gets fired by her school. She loses her job because she's, reciting ads to students. And as she loses her job, they get more and more difficulties to get by. He has to work more, Mike has to work more now, and they cannot get by. They're struggling so much, and this is very, very brutal situation. And then, of course, what happens? Mike says, I have to do something new. I have to find, more money for her because she's not working anymore. And he finds a website called Dummies. Dummies is a website where, people pay other people money, mostly desperate people money, where they do all kinds of, things that like pulling their teeth out, drinking piss, etc. So one day he logs into this website, and the man says to him, okay, I will give you $500 if you take your mask off. And then Mike takes his mask off, and when he goes to work, everybody's mocking him now. Everybody has learned that he has become a member of Dummies, and he's doing all this crazy stuff for money. And then he gets fired as well. So we have Amanda fired, and Mike is also fired, which leaves the couple, devastated because they have no income left now, and so that they cannot afford the highest subscription offer, and the company is so brutal that they won't even care. And this episode is actually wonderful example of the ruthlessness of neoliberal capitalism. That they don't see common people as people. They see them as numbers, figures, or statistics. And common people are expendable. They're easily expendable, and they don't even care about their condition. So this leads to Amanda sleeping more because she has to sleep more, because she hasn't upgraded to the upper tier, and her sleeping more means that she's not actually alive anymore. So they decide, and Mike decide, and both the couple decide that she will be euthanized, and he strangles him to death first with a pillow, and then at the end he also commits suicide. So it's a very dramatic episode, and very well acted, and very sad also. This illustrates how techno-capitalist structures reduce human beings to revenue streams while stripping away autonomy, privacy, and ultimately life itself based on economic status and class. So the commodification of health is very much very obvious here, and the result obviously is first dehumanization. The couple is dehumanized, later they are enslaved. They're gradually actually being enslaved by this techno-feudal system. They are gradually become independent, and the corporation takes their humanity away from them, step by step. And of course, it ends with the couple's death. And the major themes are love and sacrifice, class struggle, class stratification, human dignity is a very interesting theme here. Of course, dehumanization, healthcare commodification. It's a huge, immense criticism on the American healthcare system, naturally, of course. Biocapitalism, surveillance capitalism, privacy erosion, and the banality of evil in tech. Here you have some pictures from the episode. The first picture, we see Amanda before she's operated. The second picture, we see Mike, in dummies performing ridiculous tasks. The third picture, we see Rivermind, one of the ads of Rivermind, where they show happy people going on with their lives, no problems present there. The fourth picture, sorry, we see that they have been married for 3 years and they wanted to have a child. Actually, they were planning to have a child, and they bought a crib. But eventually, they are forced to sell the crib for money. And the young couple who buys the crib, they were actually buying the crib to burn it for some video, to shoot a stupid video, actually. Also a very sad condition. The next picture, we see the worker of the Rivermind company, where she's always smiling, but ruthlessly smiling, and she's a perfect embodification of the banality of evil in tech. And the last picture shows Mike euthanizing Amanda, because she will either be sleeping or running ads for the most of the time. So this is how it works out. The second episode is called Eulogy, and it's also a very good one. And this was starring Paul Giamatti, another Hollywood actor, very famous Hollywood actor. And I argue here that Eulogy presents hauntology by depicting how digital technologies preserve the past as an ever-returning spectral presence, resulting in a collapse of temporal boundaries, erosion of mourning, and perpetual state of being haunted by constructed memory. What is hauntology? It was coined by Jacques Derrida, French philosopher. In his book Spectres of Marx, he created the term as a playful pun on ontology, study of being, using it to explore how the present is haunted by ghosts of the past. While Derrida introduced it philosophically, it was later popularized and expanded in cultural and aesthetic context by writers like Mark Fisher and Simon Reynolds in the 2000s, who applied it to music, nostalgia, and the feeling of lost futures in late capitalism. Ultimately, hauntology invites us to listen to these ghosts. They reveal the gaps in our current reality and subtly question why we can no longer envision radically different futures. So it creates lots of melancholy. In Eulogy, we have a character played by Paul Giamatti. His name is Philip, and he is an old man now, and he gets an obituary invitation from England, from his ex-girlfriend who was his girlfriend 30 years ago, and her name was Carol. And he gets it from a company firm which has a new technology where you can enter photographs. You can enter while looking at photographs. You can enter those photographs and relive those memories. This is the technology that is presented here. Very interesting and very creative. And actually, Philip has spent the last decade erasing Carol's face from pictures because they had an argument, they fell out, and he wanted to forget everything about her. So Philip actually, it's been a long time, and he doesn't remember her face. And actually, he thought that she had abandoned her, but this was not the case, because they had lost communication because she was actually pregnant from someone else. And after that, the couple never met again. So now, because of this technology, Eulogy, he remembers her face, and a decade-long conflict has been resolved. The major themes here was memory and bias, grief and loss, regret was a major theme, that is presented here, love and lack of communication, technology as an emotional tool, and of course, nostalgia. Philip's bitterness and ego had rewritten their shared past, turning her into a villain who's vilifying her in his memory, in his mind, and erasing any chance of reconciliation of the life or the life they might have built together. So this AI guide helps them rediscover the hidden truth and a tender, previously suppressed memory of her playing cello, allowing him to finally see her face clearly, but only after her death when it's too late to act. So there's no way of any compensation because she died. This creates a deeply hauntological ache. The present is haunted not just by regret, but by the ghost of an alternate future that technology can replay yet never restore, leaving Philip with a bittersweet awareness of time's irreversibility and the futures that slipped away. Here we have some pictures from this episode. You see Philip on the left side, the first picture, entering into photos where he sees, his younger years. Again, as far as he can remember, he relives his memories. And on the right picture, you see actually some people blurred. Their faces are blurred. This means that these are the people he cannot actually remember. And the next picture, you see all the pictures where he has, deleted or taken out or cut, Carol's face because of his anger. And, and on the final picture, there's a letter that he failed to read, a letter which Carol actually had written to him 30 years ago. And because of his anger and because of his resentment, he failed to read and acknowledge the past. So because of this technology, Philip acknowledges the past and actually resolves the conflict. And this is a very heartbreaking episode where technology was used for a positive cause, actually, rather than a negative or destructive purpose. On the picture beneath, we see that this is the last picture from the last scene where Philip goes to England for the obituary. He goes into the church and finding out that everybody's using the same technology. They're entering some kind of a memory and regrouping in someone's or maybe Carol's memory. So Kelly represents the lost futures that could have been. Kelly, who is Kelly? She's the AI assistant that contacts Philip. And first, when watching, I thought that it was Carol and Philip's daughter, but this was not the case. Her existence as Carol's actual daughter with another man intensifies Philip's regret, forces him to confront how completely he removed himself from Carol's life, missing not only the child he might have had, but also the family she eventually built without him. So this was a very emotional and heartbreaking episode. Imagine that this was a real technology entering a photograph. After 30, 40 years, this would have a very emotional. It would be a very emotional experience indeed. So the final episode I will be analyzing is USS Callister into Infinity. This is the first sequel ever created in Black Mirror, and the first was released in 2019, season 4, the end of season 4. And after 8 years, Brooker has managed to find the same cast and have the same cast play the same roles once again, starring Kristen Milioti and Jesse Plemons, very talented actress. And this is a very Hollywood style, very Americanized episode that is, of course, exploring the themes of space opera. And my argument here is USS Callister into Infinity illustrates virtual sovereignty as a form of absolute self-contained digital rule in which one individual exerts unchecked authority over a simulated world and its inhabitants, revealing how power in virtual environments can become hegemonically exploitative and deeply dehumanizing. Virtual sovereignty describes how digital platforms and virtual environments exercise independent jurisdictional authority over users, challenging traditional nation-state governance. As online spaces become primary sites of economic social life, tech corporations and decentralized organizations increasingly control behavior through terms of service, algorithms, and digital property rights that transcend physical borders. And this creates overlapping spheres of authority where users simultaneously owe allegiance to territorial states, platform providers, and virtual community protocols, fragmenting cyberspace into distinct digital territories with their own legal regimes and enforcement mechanisms. So how is virtual sovereignty presented in USS Callister? It is reflected through the tension between digital consciousness and ownership. So here we have two worlds, basically. In the real world, we have a company who produces a virtual reality game, space opera game called Infinity. And this company, we have workers, there are two creators of this game, James Walton and Robert Daly. Robert Daly is a nerd, typical, the brain behind the game, and Walton is the classic capitalist. He's the one who provides the funding. And of course, there are many others. What happens here is that, Robert Daly, the genius behind the game, has made a distinct server. In a distinct server, he has a digital, an illegal machine that can copy digital clones using DNA samples, so which is illegal. And he takes, samples from people that work in the office, and he clones them inside the game. Okay, and these are 5 or 6 people, and including the owner of the game, who sometimes mostly actually bullies him, the capitalist James Walton. So he clones them inside the game, and we have 2 versions of these people mirroring one another. So in the real world, they are just workers, and their roles are fixed. In the game, there are crews. They are just crews of a spaceship, and they're sentient. They know that they exist, but the real identity, the real people, are not aware of their clones being, copied into this digital game. Only one of the crew is called Nanette Cole. She's the one who contacts her own self in the reality, telling her to save them because they are stuck inside the game. So it's a very complex situation, but lots of controversy and lots of question marks to go around it as well. The digitally cloned new members exist as fully sentient beings within a game they did not choose, yet are subject to the absolute authority of the owners. Their struggle asserts that consciousness, even when artificially instantiated, generates its own claim to autonomy and self-determination, which transcends the technical ownership of the platform hosting it. This episode interrogates whether sovereignty can be meaningful inside a privately owned space, ultimately suggesting that true freedom for digital beings requires either escaping the owner's jurisdiction or collapsing the distinction between virtual and legitimate existence. So virtual sovereignty is manifested in a digital clone's self-determination and autonomy in an infinite multiplayer online game. And in the end, they are stuck inside the game where they have to play, battle with all the other players. But all the other players are actually playing from inside their rooms, where they can, in this situation, they can really get killed inside the game. So in the game, the crew members manage to destroy the game's core server, thereby deleting and destroying the game once and for all. However, they are once again stuck. The crew members end up being transferred to Nanette's consciousness. Nanette is the name of the captain, their leader. They now have to continue their existence as part of Nanette. The major themes of this episode are digital consciousness, identity, human rights in the digital sphere, power, exerting power, and tyranny that comes with unlimited power, consent, bodily autonomy, capitalist game mechanics, corporate exploitation, escapism versus imprisonment. And this episode explores the following questions. Is true emancipation from technology really possible? Does technological liberation lead to moral freedom as well? This is a very good one. Does liberty truly exist, and is it ever fully attainable? What does being human and consciousness mean in the digital age? So what is being human and what does consciousness actually mean in the digital sphere? What if we are cloned digitally? What if this happens one day? What are we going to do then? Very interesting. Here we have some pictures from this episode. In the first picture, you see the crew here, digitally clones. They are, inside the spaceship. The picture beneath it, you see the game, which is fully going on. The ships are battling one another. They are shooting at each other. The third picture above, you see Robert Daly, the nerd played by Jesse Plemons, and the other owner, James Walton, with the DNA cloning machine, which is illegal. They take samples from people and they clone them into this game, so they become easily can abuse their power to become some kind of a digital tyrant. In the last picture, you see Walton also clones Daly himself. So Walton is the greedy capitalist of the game. He clones Robert Daly, the actual creator of the Infinity game. Why? Because he wants him to work 24 hours and he wants him to expand this universe of the game, the space where there are many different planets. And inside the game, he has a clone himself. So Robert Daly, the creator of the game, has a clone where he's working constantly and he's creating new worlds so that he can expand this universe and make it infinite, just like the game's title itself. Very, very interesting. The next picture, we see the crew being stuck inside the game. And in the last picture, we see the crew waking up, finding out that they are stuck inside of Nanette's mind. They have been transferred, their consciousness have been transferred into Nanette's mind. They were seeking emancipation, but now they find out that they are once again captive, but inside another person's consciousness. And this is how the episode ends. This is an long episode of 1.5 hours, and lots of people think that it will receive another sequel. And last but not least, I would like to recommend this episode from season 6. It was the season where Red Mirror was coined, and this was one of the best episodes of this season. Again, a very Americanized Hollywood-style episode, but this one is very much sci-fi. It was called Beyond the Sea. It's playing Hollywood stars such as Aaron Paul, from Breaking Bad, and Josh Hartnett. And this is set in the late 1960s in America, and it explores themes of space travel and cloning again, or they are using some kind of a linking technology where two astronauts are in space, but their copies are on Earth. They can spend lots of time together with their families, but not everything goes according to plan. This is very much cinematic episode, which is excellently executed. And if you haven't watched it, I would recommend you to watch it. And thank you for listening. Stop sharing.
Cenk Hocam, thank you very much.
Longer than expected.
No, it's all right, and we have learned a lot. I haven't watched the last 2 series, but I'm going to watch it with a new, perspective now. So thank you. The floor is open for questions. Anyone has anything to say, comment, or ask?
I think it might be a mistake that somebody raised their hands for 1 second but disappeared. Could be a mistake. But if not, until they decide, Cenk, maybe it's a coincidence, but during your speech, my ChatGPT told me that my subscription is over, and unless I pay them, they will not be able to work with me. And at the same moment, I tried to use my cloud, which I pay for 1,000 right now. Told me I use it too much, and they will not be able to answer my questions until Friday 12th. And they are trying to extort money, pay $5 more to extend. So we already live in a kind of subscription, dependent world. And I think together with all the AI, soon people will be unable to, including our students, now unable to, just like our internet, we can't do it without now. We're dependent on it. Quite probably soon, the more dependent we become, I think we'll have to. This is the free time. They're just giving it almost free, almost. We're very basic subscription, but until they're checking out the right moment. And this applied to health services, which I'm very familiar with other films such as In Time and Repo Man, in which, how about organ transplantation? You can't pay for an organ, but you rent it and you pay. For example, you have a new heart, you have a new liver, but you pay monthly for it, and then comes a time that you'll no longer be able to. Yeah, the commodification of health is awful, but it's already here, and we're becoming more and more dependent on it. So this platform capitalism I think, has already become a part of our lives. And Black Mirror, I haven't watched anything beyond the first series, but I think I'll have to go and just, after your presentation, dig more, find some concept. Thank you very much. That was very beautiful. So it's a good initiation. And how about the others?
I can comment on one thing. When I say Black Mirror, as you said, Cenk Hocam, the very first episode is still on my mind. I was shocked as a very young person, like 15 years ago, and I still remember that particular episode. It was very haunting.
Disturbing.
Disturbing, yes, and I am still shocked at the prospect and the idea behind that episode. And I forgot the other ones, that's how much I was influenced by the first one. And I also liked the Bandersnatch part. I really enjoyed its innovative ideas, the interactivity. I liked choosing the scenes, deciding on what's going to happen next. And we had books like that. Maybe, you remember, we had books that we can choose the stories. So reviving that on TV and giving you some kind of control over the narrative is a very innovative, and I really liked it back then. I still enjoy the idea, and perhaps hoping that they can create another one like Bandersnatch in the future somehow. I was going to connect that to some part, but the subscription part. As Cem Hocam said, the subscription and the health issue, we are very lucky because we have somehow a social, government, and we can have free operations, the big ones. But United States and in many parts of the world, as you know, people do not have such an opportunity. And I'm not sure, but it's also happening to us right now. And not only in health, but also in education, as the current, ongoing right now in the country. We are offered, all this information about how we should pay to live well, how we should pay to live, have a good education, have a good health service, or have a good car, etc. So that kind of existence that only depends on money, capital, the capitalistic venture is some sort of new version of indentured system, right? When they had it back then. So it's also very interesting how it's sold back to us via Hollywood, the idea, and how we are, very normally right now living in it. So I find that very fascinating. And Black Mirror, even though it's very critical, it's very, how can I say? The critical is the right word of this system, right? Do you agree? Do you think the same thing? It somehow retells that narrative, because science fiction has this aim of, warning us about the future, the what if stories. But while doing that, it also makes us normalize such practices. The commodification of health, education, or whatever, living well with the means. What do you think about that?
You're asking me?
Yeah, or any,
Well, it is there are many instances of repetition, of course, in Black Mirror, but I don't know if the purpose of warning people, that's statement open for debate. I don't know how much successful it is in terms of that, warning people, and it also normalizes it in a way, just like you said. But still, I think it's valuable that it's presenting us those technologies. But there are lots of differences in systems and in culture. In America, it's very normal for people to pay for health, and in America, I think it's the only place, one of the very few places in the world where capitalism is ascribed a good meaning, where people speak good, positively of capitalism. So I don't think whether the American people would even understand these messages. I'm very skeptical of this. The common American voters, would they get those messages? In terms of the way that Brooker has, that has destined them, to understand it. Because just like with the response criticism, okay, Brooker's messages are clear to us, but are they clear to the average American? I'm very skeptical of that. I think that lots of Americans would have problems understanding and acknowledging those issues that we are mentioning here. But overall, I think we are lucky. We have the same problems, yes, but we can, our system, tells us, that you can have healthcare free, but you have to wait. So this is the problem here. So system tells us you don't want to wait. Okay, you can go to the private hospitals, you can pay money, and you just don't wait there. But either way, somehow, some way, they get it solved. They get all the healthcare fixed in our country. So that's why we are lucky. But in America, I don't think it works that way, because people, they're telling us that even if you get some simple operation or an injection, it would cost you thousands of dollars there. So that's a huge problem. And Obama, I think he passed the Obamacare, where he was 10 years ago, I think, he was blamed for being communist. But where healthcare is something very, basic human right. So it's all open for debate.
Yeah, thank you. I totally agree with most of what you said.
I think there have been many similar shows, such as Black Mirror. That these are shows that I think some of them, not all of them, but some of them have imitated that Black Mirror. They were tending to imitate the style, the bleak, dystopian, technological, etc. But most of them, they ended up as weak imitations, because some of them thought they could get it right by having Hollywood actors playing. You could easily pay money to, I don't know, Samuel Jackson or Morgan Freeman to play there, but that's not going to be enough. And most of them, they didn't have one very crucial element that Black Mirror has, is Charlie Brooker. Actually, I know I'm praising him too much, but this guy has a very distinct intellectual mind. I think this guy, this is the person who created Black Mirror, and he's the brain behind it. So without Brooker, there would be no Black Mirror. And I'm very, I could tell this. You can watch lots of interviews from me. He's very interesting, kind of guy who's very critical, skeptical of everything, but his mind works in such an analytical way that he produces the good quality sci-fi that we're watching, and I hope that it will continue in the following years.
I can have a question. Hocam, thank you for your presentation. My question is about digital consciousness. Do you think we tend to humanize digital consciousness when it's created out of human DNA, while on the contrary, when it's created digitally, or artificially, we tend to dehumanize them? But eventually both types of digital consciousness would have autonomy and self-determination. So what do you think? Do we tend to humanize if it's created out of human DNA?
Well, I don't think that in the near future there will be consciousness created from human DNA. As in the series, this was illegal, and this was carried out illegally. So it was outlawed, actually. And the CEO of the company, he got jailed because of this, because it was against human rights to clone people using their DNA and transferring their consciousness without their consent also. So I don't think this will happen in the near future, but of course in the long term, in the distant future, we don't know what could happen. And but this raises serious questions,
But then the next question would be like, is it okay to create an artificial digital consciousness and then apply the same things to it? I mean, like, if it's not human DNA, if it's totally created artificially, then is it okay to control those beings?
Well, in the games, I think it's so far.
That's what we do.
That's what we do. That's why people play games.
Yes.
People play games in order for to be able to do what they can't do in real life. Actually, that's the basic motivation behind gaming. What we can't do in real life, we try to do there, and it raises several questions with it. It's a lot of violence in it, because we can't be violent in the real world. We can't shoot people, you can't kill people, but you can do it in the game. On one side, this is good because you can relieve lots of stress, etc. And on the other side, if children are doing it, it might be very detrimental to their psychology. And this is what we're discussing in the recent days with all the violence going on in schools. So I don't know. Maybe games should also have some kind of regulation, just like social media. Or parents should regulate it, their own children. But I'm very skeptical of them. I don't think most people, they just see it as games. Oh, they're just playing games. Let them do. I don't think most people would care. But the basic motivation behind games is that doing the things we can't do in real life. That's why. If you take it away from that, well, what's the point of playing the games then? And what are we going to do in the games? Are we going to pay taxes? Or are we going to, go to school or do the same thing? Well, then it wouldn't have any, meaning left behind the games. That's the whole point of the virtual reality and the virtual sphere, But so it's very, very debatable, as I told you in the presentation. There are lots of issues that they don't have an answer. They don't have a clear answer for now. But maybe in the future, we will maybe come up with better answers. Hopefully.
Thank you. Zuleyfa Hocam, it's nice to see you with us. Hello.
Welcome.
You have a few things to say, questions or remarks about?
Yeah, as a latecomer to the group, I just wanted to say I really enjoyed your presentation, Cenk. I think Black Mirror is one of my favorite TV series of all time, because it has, it does touch upon the science that's going on. So I think it's not really a science fiction at some point, but the things that Black Mirror shows us has become science fact. And it does have the potential of becoming even more factual than just a fiction. So yeah, I just want to say thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you for joining us, Hocam.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Firuze, you're okay with us? Okay.
But I think I'm gonna have to leave in 5 minutes.
Okay.
So I'm sorry in advance.
Okay, so Cenk, I have a few things. I have a few observations to make. Firstly, the thing you said you're kind of curious about whether Americans are, smart enough to understand, or there was a kind of a remark about that. When I was in the United States, I realized something about the Americans. But when you talk to them in a more intellectual level, sometimes you realize some very interesting thing. They know about all this stuff. It's just that the people that I visited, when they realize that I'm kind of asking the interior mechanisms of the system, they said, hey, they knew all about it, but you have to do it like that. The family that I visited was say, hey, we live in a kind of a system that everybody, we invite the others to see our home. When they see the home, just They look at the car. Hey, the last time I was here, it was here too. So you have to change your car. But that's what we have to do. So it's like, I think it's not a kind of, I'm sure there are many stupid people. There are people just go with the current. But at the same time, what Americans are doing seem to be in a hyper-conscious state. They watch these stuff. They know what it means, but they still go on doing it, just like we do. Maybe what else can you do? You have to send your child to a private school. You have to get a subscription. What is the alternative? No longer. Socialism is no longer an alternative. So that means it sounds too naive and too, adolescent even at times, that if you have to go that way, or you have to be extremist. So we know that, we know, but we still have to practice it. So this is such a neighborhood. This is such a culture. I think there is a great deal of hyper consciousness that knowing all this stuff, but still not asking questions, going and doing it. And something about Züleyha and what you said, when I'm not familiar with the follow-ups, okay, on the things that you said, they're more like on the fantasy side. Somehow, I know that may be questionable, but this Black Mirror thing reminded me of something very old, the Twilight Zone, which is not science fiction. But when you talk about it, it shows your age. But it was the big thing. It was the big thing. But it was not science fiction. But somehow, my not fear, but my suspicion became correct because of your presentation. It looks like Black Mirror, which is science fiction, after it's used up, its subject turned to go Twilight Zone way, kind of fantasy, thriller, mystery, disappearing people. I don't know that stuff in Black Mirror, but it seems like it went that way. Do you have an idea why? And also, could it be because of the fact that the episodes are very irregular, 3 episodes, 5 episodes? They used up subjects. They couldn't find something enough originality instead of repeating. Do you have an idea about that?
Well, I'm not familiar with the Twilight Zone, as you said, but well,
you're young, so thank you. That's
younger.
You're younger.
Well, I don't think they have problems finding content in that sense. I think every new season, Brooker manages to surprise everyone with innovative and very, very creative episodes. As I said, there are many imitations, but none of them are as good as Black Mirror. Most of them are discontinued, and it's very hard to keep a franchise like this going for a long time. And a long time, it's been, next year it will be 16 years with the season 8. So not all of the episodes are very good in quality, I must say, but I agree with you. Yes, they're not all of them are science fiction. Some of them are science fantasy as well. I think I agree with you, but some of them are more science fiction than science fantasy. So there are lots of differences in styles and in content. But I hope that Brooker will continue with the good quality that he gave us in this last season, season 7, which was very satisfying for many people.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Well, there could it be because when the Twilight Zone was made, it was like after the 1950s and 60s, and during the 1950s. There's this very famous conference on AI happened, and then people started talking about artificial intelligence, just like it has recently been very popularized. Maybe the timing is very parallel to each other. What do you think?
Well, I have no idea, but I think that did you say 1960s?
Yes, Twilight Zone was made in 1960s, but I think it was rooted.
That's the original, very, very original. But
yeah,
something in the 1980s was kind of more recent. There was also a new generation of it.
So maybe it was triggered by this enormous scientific development, and then after it came this, I don't know. Maybe it's very parallel because people started to have. The ground shaken.
By the way, is there any other TV show, something like a series that's like nowadays on Twilight Zone, something popular about mysteries, disappearing people? Do you know any such thing, by the way? No, supernatural. Supernatural. No, so that's
There are many similar shows,
Mm.
similar to Black Mirror. I mean, there's Love, Death, and Robots. It's an animation, I think, and there was a show called Solos, which was
Mhm.
very much Black Mirror-ish, but it was discontinued. It wasn't very good. It was lots of dialogues, and no action. It's lots of famous stars, Hollywood stars playing in it, but obviously wasn't enough. And I don't know. I think that the original British Black Mirror, it was very good. I think the first two seasons, because it was low budget, set in England, very dark, bleak atmosphere, no famous actors playing, so it was very challenging for him. And that's when actually Black Mirror, became Black Mirror, before Netflix got it. And after Netflix got it, of course, it was Americanized. And naturally, you have so many stars playing in it. It's going to be good quality. You have Salma Hayek playing Bryce Dallas Howard, Jesse Plemons, Kristen Milioti is very, very good actress. I mean, but yeah, but I would prefer to see, Brooker, going back to that era once again, once in a while. Just like I told you, once in a while he prefers to, go back to England and use the same tone of dark, bleak, episodes, or Scotland, to produce the original, the Black Mirror style. And that's what I would love to see in the future, rather than the grandiose Hollywood style action, which obviously the American people want that, but
maybe the world wants that because that's the kind of look that stuck. Whereas techno noir, more artsy, kind of depressive Nordic stuff, is European. We have some, Okay, yes, Özgür Hocam.
Hello, Hocam. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Hocam. Cenk Hocam, thank you very much for the presentation. I haven't got a question, but sort of I would like to comment on the presentation and the Black Mirror very shortly. When I think about the Black Mirror, I like Firuze Hocam, it was a very striking episode, the first one. But when I think about Black Mirror, I think it's full of warnings about technology, where technology can take us. I mean, the excess of technology. I mean, how technology is invading our lives. At the moment, we can feel that. I mean, in our everyday lives, we can feel that. We cannot live without our phones. We cannot live without the internet. And there was a very interesting scene in Ordinary People. I watched the episode where you can download, where you can install an app on your phone, and you can change your mood as you like. I mean, when you feel sad, you can just click on your app, and you can feel better. So I think. It's full of warnings, as I said before. I mean, and for example, in many countries in Europe, we hear about screens being removed from classrooms. I don't know if you agree with me. I mean, they are turning back to paper and pen. I mean, screen time. They are trying to reduce the screen time. They are trying to reduce technology. I mean, okay, I'm not an anti-technology person. Okay, I use it in my everyday life, but I think it's a very serious debate where this technology is going, where and how, what should we do about it? I mean, to use it correctly in order to benefit from it. Okay, I don't know if you agree with me or not. Thank you. That's it.
Well, I agree with you perfectly. And I have one final remark. I don't know if you remember, but when I was back at Hacettepe University at Ake, I think you showed us a commercial. You showed us it was late 90s, and you showed us, there was a VHS video, so it was late 90s, I guess. And you showed us a school in America where they had a school canteen, and some company was sponsoring the school. So company was paying money to the school to, you know, fund the school for certain services. And the school was, you know, forcing the students to watch ads. I think I saw this while I was at the department. I think it was Cem who showed us. And they were like ads at certain specific times during the day. They were forced to watch those ads every day, each and every day. And I was like, oh my God, this is so brutal. Like, come on, what is this? This can only happen in America. I told myself, why would you, you know, force students to show ads? But just because the company is sponsoring the school, you know, it was so brutal. I thought this could never happen in Europe. I mean, they would never allow this. They would say, come on. They would say to the company, buzz off. They would say, get out of here. We would never. But in America, I think they had, I don't know how long they were watching, but do you remember that, Hocam?
I remember something like that. Yes, right. So VHS era. But that's at the same time. Maybe you're familiar with the idea of, you know, cutting down on the time of universities and bringing it down to 3 years. That happened in Europe. So I think that kind of economic constraint is also pushing Europeans. Within 10 years ago, you could just go to Germany and Finland, get a free MA. You could get paid scholarship. Now they're just cutting down on it. So I think that kind of neoliberal economy has put in too much strain on the economy. The country is looking at this and seeing China, and then they're shutting down social sciences departments or humanities, and also all the departments. Well, I think they just cut down the electives and just reduce all the credits to, hey, squeeze everything to 3 years because we'll not be able to accommodate so many students now. So even Europe is also suffering, but they are doing better than the United States, but probably not the kind of forced ad, but some sort of sponsorship keeping system alive. They may find themselves in a kind of what you call the American way. I'm kind of, because China is pushing so hard and Americans are pushing so hard. So Europe is going down in one sense. So they have been so far, you know, held to the humanistic ideas or more socialist ideas better than United States, but they are seriously strained. Which brings me something very interesting about your speech. That was going to be my final point. When I was in 1980s, there was a kind of computer game, Frontier Elite. That was kind of, you're flying in among galaxies, you're trading stuff. And one of the merchandise that you were trading, okay, weapons, drugs, they were more risky. You could just take them, but you could just be attacked or arrested. There was one more merchandise, slaves. So that was, I said, that's very anachronistic. We're talking about future, whether it's slavery you're talking about. This is not 1840s South Carolina. So you're talking about Gamma Centauri. No, I think Black Mirror is doing a very good job of bringing us to the idea of, you know, enforced slavery or some sort of indentured servitude again, or even voluntary, involuntary, whatever it's called, that you offer yourself, you put up yourself because you have no other collateral to put on the market to get a service. So people put their own bodies, labor, whatsoever. And I think slavery is on the edge, but it's going to be so pink that it's not going to, the chains will be invisible. We already have subscriptions, invisible chains, invisible bonds, a lot of strings attached now. So the future will practically brings back slavery, but in a kind of very sneaky form. So Black Mirror, that was a very cool idea. So my optimism about future being, you know, free of slavery was now, it is going to be very real. I think it's a very bleak future at the same time. It could be real. Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else? Okay, it was a very nice talk, very intellectual talk. Cenk, thank you very much. It's nice. Cenk was my student, a very bright one at school, and now seeing that's kind of better than I am as being an academic. So I've always been proud of him. So seeing now him as a kind of initiating our discussion, working together as colleagues and friends, is also another source of pride for me. Thank you. And I think we have to close down for today, but we're going to come together next time with another interesting topic. So thank you very much, Cenk Hoca, and thank you very much for everybody for joining us. and hope to meet you in the next one with God knows what kind of a subject we'll pick up. So if you have any ideas, just feel free to contact us. So you can just start any kind of subject. You can initiate any kind of discussion. Feel free. Be informal, formal, academic, fun, fun fiction, whatever, fun level. We are open. So this is a discussion group. So sometimes we have to ease it down. I mean, come to the more easygoing levels. So we are all very open to all kind of suggestions. Thank you very much for being with us. I hope to see you again. Bye-bye.
Hope to see you next time. Good luck.
Bye bye.
Bye.